Thank you so much, Mr. Mingyan. We have a question. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. We have a question from a student.
Mm-hmm.
It's regarding the topic on compounding topic.
Yep.
Question is, so not all banks account earn interest.
Yes.
Are all bank accounts earn interest? That's what the question.
Okay, so let me answer that first. It depends. Usually savings accounts will earn interest. The rate of interest varies. So I'm not sure about Indonesian banks, but in Singapore banks, they have what they call step-up interest. So they say the first $5,000 earn you a certain amount of interest. If you put another 5,000, that one earns you a certain amount of interest. If you buy insurance products from us, you earn even more interest. But from my experience, the account that doesn't give interest is usually a checking account, an account from which you can write a check against.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Another question, I think it's for me. What do you think about investing in cryptocurrency? I'm sure the Sec 3 students are interested in knowing this regarding cryptocurrency these days.
Yes, so cryptocurrency is very hot. I'll just share something funny that I saw the other day. Some guy found an advertisement for a computer coding competition from many years ago. The first prize was something like $500, and the 8th prize was 500 Bitcoin. So there's big interest in cryptocurrency because you can see the stratospheric rise in crypto. Now, I have the same sentiment about cryptocurrency as what the Monetary Authority of Singapore has, which is that it is a high-risk product. It's something very new, so not a lot of people understand it yet. So only the very savvy or people who really can afford to lose that money should look at cryptocurrency. Also because I think people are still figuring out right now. There's so many different cryptocurrencies. There's so much volatility. Some people who understand it well can do well investing in it. I mean, you see people like Sam Bankman-Fried, you see other crypto billionaires. Unfortunately for myself, I am a bit more conservative, so I have not dipped my toes into those waters. But I think what I am very sure is that it is a high volatility, high risk product that be very careful about before you go into it. Not that it's bad, but you have to be careful about it.
Thank you so much, sir.
I'll just throw one question as we are waiting for the students to come up with more questions. I think sometimes in YouTube, we do see people talking about, managing credit cards. And they say that, one of the ways is to pay your credit card bill on time. And then, basically leverage on the points. Yes. So what are your views on that? Yeah.
Well, I think as long as you are able to control your spending, you know how much you can spend every month and you don't go beyond that. Using credit cards is fine. I do it all the time. I use credit cards to pay my taxes, my wife's taxes. Almost as much as I can, I use credit card bill to get a cashback. And some cashbacks can be quite sizable. It's like, can be up to 3% or more. And like I said, there's a convenience. When I had my wedding with my wife, if I had to pay in cash, if I had to clear the bill in cash, I would have been carrying a suitcase to my wedding. So credit cards offer convenience, but it's very easy to get carried away because you don't see it. So you just throw your card, you spend, and you don't think about it for a month. And then at the end of the month, you get a big shock. So as long as you do your budgeting, you know how much you can spend, you know how much you have to spend, it's fine. In fact, I would say it's beneficial.
Yeah. So the other question would be, how does credit cards for the children's benefit? I mean, I understand how it works, but how does the credit card basically manage to give this kind of perks? That's one. And they also have this thing called like 0% interest for like certain number of months. How does it all work for the credit card? Yeah.
Okay. So from what I've understood, how they are able to give these perks, how they are able to give you 0% installment plans and all that, is that they actually work together with the merchant. So the merchant is paying for part of these perks. But why do the merchants want to give this kind of, in effect, as a discount? Why do they want to give it? It's because credit card companies have a big reach. So for example, if I were to use BNI credit cards, BNI has millions of customers, and they send out statements to these millions of customers every month. And it's easy for them to include a flyer there that says, buy my new shaver, buy my new soap from Colgate, buy new Colgate, buy Oral-B toothbrushes. In exchange, we'll give you 5% cashback if you buy Oral-B products using our credit card. So part of this is actually financed by the merchants, and the merchants are willing to do this because they say, I get greater reach. I pay this because it's a form of advertising for me, and I get more sales from this. Did I answer the question?
Yes, you did. You answered it perfectly. Let me just pass the time over to Yash. Yes, you got the question. Then we rotate around another question. Yeah, we've quite a number of questions coming up. Yash, over to you now.
Yes, sir. So good morning once again, everybody. So since all the students are here, I just wanted to ask one question. What is the starting point? Where do they start? Like, is there any specific investment that the students, some of the students, they do not invest? So if it was up to you, what is the suggestion from your side where they can start off from?
Okay. So if anyone first delves into the world of investing, one thing that they always hear is diversify. Don't just buy all of one stock. Tesla has done historically well, but if you put all your life savings in Tesla and Elon Musk, his private jet crashes into the ocean tomorrow, you're going to be in big trouble. But if you have bought 1,000 different stocks and Tesla goes to zero tomorrow, you haven't lost all your money. You still have the other 999 stocks. So the first thing you want to do is diversify. Now, if you have a limited amount of money, it's not easy to go about and buy shares, even one share of 500 different companies. So one thing that is very easy for people to start investing is to buy something called an index tracker fund. Indexes are something that represents the market. So let me give you an example. In America, one of the most famous indices is called the Standard & Poor 500, S&P 500. So there's a committee that comes together every month, and they decide which are the 500 companies in America which should be included into their index fund. So into their index, sorry. So they have this index, which kind of tracks how the American market is doing. And then there are funds, places like Citadel, places like BlackRock, Blackstone, which try and emulate the performance of this index. And you can invest in this thing that's trying to emulate the index. And it has been shown that over time, the index eventually is positive. There are ups and downs, of course, but overall, over the last 40 years, so if you had bought an S&P 500 index tracker fund for the last 40 years, your return would have been on average just under 12%. And this is something very simple. So immediately you are diversified, because when you buy that fund, you are essentially buying into the top 500 companies of America. So you're already diversified. That's one. You don't have to pay a lot of administrative fees to the fund, so you don't lose as much. And like I said, in the long term, it has been shown that you will do well. And even Warren Buffett, one day his wife asked him, he said, well, I know you're a good investor, you're one of the best in the world and everything, but when you go away, he's 96 this year or something like that, when he said, when you finally kick the bucket, what am I going to do? I can't manage the billions of dollars because I don't know what to invest in. And he said, the best thing for my wife to do would be to buy an index tracker fund and just hold on to it for as long as possible. So I know I'm oversimplifying a lot of things. There's a lot more details about index trackers, funds, and indices. So if any of you are interested in this, you can write to me directly and I'll be happy to answer your questions. But yes.
Okay. Let me just move on to another question, because we have quite a number of questions from Kelapa Gading, so I get a good blend of questions. So at Kelapa Gading's side, there's a student asking, what about buying gold? What are your thoughts about investing in gold?
Okay, So one thing I didn't talk about why I like stocks as well. Do they mean physical gold?
Yeah, I think they mean physical gold.
Okay.
Yes.
So one thing about buying physical gold is that when you need the money, it's not as easy to dispose of it. Or if you need the money urgently, let's say someone winds up in a hospital, someone in your family winds up in a hospital, and you need that money back urgently, it's not so easy to sell, especially if you bought like a 1 kilogram gold bar. You probably have to go to a pawn shop. And at a pawn shop, they're not going to give you the price of gold today. They're going to give you something like 70% or 60% of the price of gold today, especially if you bought a big gold block. And I remember this story that I heard from the chief economist of UBS. He once said, people who buy gold fearing the zombie apocalypse. If you buy gold blocks, that's not very smart, because when you need a loaf of bread and you only have gold blocks, the guy's going to say, sure, I'll give you my loaf of bread and I'll take whatever gold you have. And you got to give him the whole gold block. So one thing about buying physical commodities like this is how easy is it? How liquid is it if you need the money urgently? Other than that, it's open to the same volatility that stocks and shares and bonds are exposed to. So liquidity is one chief concern.
Okay. Got another question here pertaining to interest rates.
Okay.
Let me just call it up here. They're asking which banks offer more interest rate than others. How can you find the information?
Okay, so yes, interest rates differ from bank to bank, and the easiest way is just to visit the bank website. All this information is public and you can easily find it there.
Okay. Next question would be pertaining to a question on currency.
Okay.
They're asking which currency is stable. You know, the question was which currency is more stable to fluctuations with regard to inflation?
Wow. I wish I knew the answer, because then I would put all my money there. That's a very difficult question to answer, because the world is globalized now and more interconnected than ever. So something that happens in one part of the world, so like the Russian-Ukraine war, unless you have Ukrainian money or Russian money, you might think this might not affect me, but everything is affected, and that can affect your currency. So even inflation in one country can affect the currency of another country. But if you look at traditionally the stable currencies that people like, what people consider as safe haven currencies, US dollar is among one of them. Possibly Singapore dollar as well, but Singapore dollar has very small quantity as compared to the US dollar. And even then, if you say stable, when I studied in Berkeley in 2002, the Singapore dollar US dollar exchange rate was $1 to $1.65 Singapore dollar. And now it has dropped all the way to $1.44. So there are many things that affect the currency, not just inflation, but also economic development of the country.
Okay, thank you. One student is asking, what are the cons of banks with high interest rate? I mean, could it be too good to be true, or what is there any negative, for a bank who offers a high interest rate? Yeah.
Well, I think you do your homework. As long as it's a reputable bank, it's been in the market a long time, people find it trustworthy, there's usually no downside unless you're borrowing from them. Sometimes a bank may offer something that looks much higher than what the market is offering. And this could be because of urgent needs by the bank. So at one time, China needed US dollars quite urgently. So in Singapore, the Chinese banks were offering an interest rate for US dollar fixed deposits much higher than the local banks in Singapore. So it may not necessarily be something that's too good to be true. So my advice is just to do your homework and find out if there's any reason behind this.
Yep. I think for the Indonesian context, for the students, the banks are also classified into levels, yeah. So and I think in Indonesia, if you do have so-called a lower level bank, you find that they offer a lot more interest, a higher interest, but there's also a lot more risk because of the fact that, the liquidity of the bank may not be that high. Yeah.
Yes. So they can make sure that the bank is part of the Depositors Insurance Corporation. So that will protect the money that they save with the bank.
Okay, do we have any other questions coming in? Yash, your side, any more questions? Oh, sorry, there's one more question here. Is there a specific ratio of liquidity one must hold?
No, I wouldn't say there's a specific liquidity. What I would say is that there's a specific, not necessarily specific, there's a recommended amount of savings that they feel people should have. Yeah. And usually the rule of thumb is to have 6 months of your salary saved at any one time. That for emergencies, like in case your company goes bankrupt and you're out of a job, in case someone in your family needs emergency medical treatment. But other than that, I would say liquidity is your own comfort. If you put all your investments in stocks and shares, it's highly liquid. You can get your money back the same day. But your company may have just dropped 20% in value last night. Some of your investments may have dropped. So you can get your money, but in the short term, you'll be down by a lot. But so the rule of thumb is about 6 months of savings, 6 months worth of your salary of savings.
Okay. So I'll open up for one last question because we are already at 9. Time has flown. So any other last questions? Okay, there is a question from Klapa Gading about prices. I guess this is about inflation.
Okay.
Since inflation is really skyrocketing, they want to know, or the students want to know, why do you think this is happening, and whether it's going to be something that will move at such a rate over the short term?
Okay, so inflation is very high this year for a few reasons. One of them was the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, which just happened, or you can say it's still happening. So things like shipping, there wasn't enough shipping to go around, so prices went up. So in Singapore, some of the things that I bought easily went up by 10% or more because there just wasn't enough of it to go around. Companies closed down during the pandemic, which led to shortage of supply, which in basic economics, you can tell you that when your supply goes down and demand remains the same, prices will go up. Housing as well, there was a housing boom in the last few years. So many people were buying more, bigger houses and spending more on housing. So prices of everything went up. And then you had the Russian-Ukraine war, which then put a strain on food supply as well, which again caused prices of things to go up because of lack of supply. So there are many reasons, and I won't delve into many reasons, but one other reason was that in the United States, they were printing a lot of money to try and spur the economy on. And if you study economics next time, you'll learn that when the money supply goes up, prices go up as well. So a lot of reasons. Will it persist into the long term? I think not, because if you read about it in the news, central banks are raising interest rates. The effect of raising interest rates is that it makes things more expensive for everyone. It makes it more expensive for you to take a loan. It makes it more expensive for companies to take a loan to expand. So the hope is that you temper demand by making things more expensive, by making it more expensive for people to borrow. They don't have as much money to spend. They spend less, prices come down, inflation is tamed, and that's what banks are trying to do right now. So will it persist permanently? Will this rate of high inflation persist permanently? Answer is probably, I would say 95% no. Will you see inflation like this again in your lifetime? Also 95% yes.
Okay.
Okay,
so I think, let me see whether there are any I think that was the last question. Okay, there's another, there's a follow-up to just on that question. I think it's the same. They're asking like, apart from, I mean, like young people like them, I mean, because they're underage, not sure whether they can invest in stocks and index funds. So they're asking, in that case, how can I invest?
Okay, so as with all things for someone your age, the answer lies with your parents. I started investing at a young age by talking to my mother and said, I have an idea. I will give you some of the money that I have saved, and they invest it in their name if they agree with my recommendation. So that's what I did. I took out like a few $1,000s that I had saved over the years when I was 16. I told my mother, I think the US dollar is going to go up. Can you change my Singapore dollars into US dollars and I'll keep it in your account? And after a while, I said, can I buy this stock or that stock? I believe that it will go up, but I have to do it in your name. So this is something that you can do within family. You have to do it in their name, because I think in Singapore you have to be 21. I'm not sure what the age is in Indonesia. Yeah.
Yep.
So family, always family first.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Mia.
Any other questions? Anyone, please just write me an email directly. I'll be happy to answer.
I think for us, just want to let us show our appreciation to Mr. Ming Yang for spending the morning with us, to answer our questions as well as to give us some insights on financial literacy. So let's just join our hands together and just give him, a thank you. And
thank you very much.
so on behalf of the students of the school, thank you so much, Ming Yang, and we hope that we could have future sessions with you if you're available. Yeah. But once again, thank you so much. And for the rest of the students, have a good day ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so